It's that time of year. Yeah, you should be dancing, Kratz. You should be dancing. And Cam Maybin is going to join us soon. It's trade deadline season. We had one yesterday that we're going to break down later in the show, but you got to love 5 minutes before showtime. Another one. So I'm very excited, as I can see you are too. Over the next week, we're going to be all over coverage of trades as they happen, breaking news. We'll jump in when we can. Hopefully, Kratz, not all of the work is done Saturday night at 2 a.m. like we see in the offseason with half the signings.
No, that's not going to happen. Listen, we heard the whole report on Oneil Cruz, like big time prospects being asked. They're waiting till the last possible second. So when we go mega on the trade deadline day, then that's when it's all going to happen. They're setting it up for us. The Mets pick up another Soto and another one.
That's right. That's right. They have two Sotos. That's a good call. All right, so let's charge. Let's get to the breaking news here right off the jump.
He's charging the mound.
Two Sotos are better than one. That is very true. Gregory Soto, who used to be in the division with the Phillies, moved over to the Orioles last year. The Orioles loved the Phillies relievers last year. If you remember, they picked up Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez, and now Soto is back in the National League East. The Mets need bullpen help. They've got a left-handed reliever to add to the Brooks Raley mix. Raley just recently back for the Metropolitans, gives them two money left-handed arms, helps them really against guys like Kyle Schwarber in the division too. Keep that in mind. You want to have multiple options from the left side for high leverage games, high leverage situations. Soto and Brooks Raley makes this much more attractive for the Mets. And I feel like this team in general is not getting enough attention and love for how much damage they might do at the trade deadline. Kratz, they think they can win a World Series this year. They didn't spend $765 million on Juan Soto for nothing. What do you think?
I think David Stearns is cementing his legacy as a GM, but now he has to cement it in New York. What he does in Queens, I think, is going to be completely different. So I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for a guy who needs for a guy who jumps the market, getting a reliever that everybody we talk about today, tomorrow, in the next 5 days is going to all be about, they need relief pitching and they need a bat. To me, I think they may go back down to Baltimore and say no one else is going to get really one of the best center fielders that's available in Cedric Mullins. So you've already started that train with the Orioles. So you've already had those communications, direct line down to Baltimore, and see they might get that center fielder, Cedric Mullins, too.
We can talk about the return a little bit as well. The Mets farm system is in much better shape than it was several years ago. This team always spends a lot, but the difference was they didn't have much going in the farm. They do these days. You've seen some of the young position players come up for them and be helpful contributors. But from a pitching front, Kratz, is where this team has really changed. This team has changed from the top with the MLB squad all the way down to the minor league level. It has really made a difference with the way that this team is pitching, developing pitching. They've got the pitching machine, the pitching lab, as many call it, down in Florida where they train, right? And you're seeing that now in the form of some of these prospect returns. So when you look at these guys, we're not going to act like we know much about them, but right-handed pitcher Cameron Foster and right-handed pitcher Wellington Aracena, who on many lists is a top 20 Mets prospect, both move for a guy in Soto who I think it's a good tweet here from Joel Sherman. He said, is most likely to be a reliever that hits one, walks two, then strikes out three in an inning. Big velocity, hard to hit when he is locating. Do you like that?
Get your heart medicine out? You're saying get your heart medicine out in Queens? So it's nasty. It's a funky arm angle. He's tall, and he throws 100. Like, this is a kind of guy that you're like, man, if he could put it together. Well, he does put it together in spurts. So this will be kind of, Carlos Mendoza will need to really have his pulse on how he's throwing and be able to get him out of there. When that sinker's going, it's a middle pitch that guys are not able to square up. And to me, I thought if the Orioles were going to do a deal like this, or when the Orioles were going to do a deal like this, they would have gone after some guys that were closer to big league ready, like a 1-for-1 kind of thing, like something that would fill a hole for next year. Because people, I mean, yes, the Orioles have been brutal, but they want to win next year. If they don't want to win, then somebody's going to get Gunnar Henderson, which ain't happening. But you go out there and you're like, hey, like, I thought it would be more of a baseball trade when I was thinking of Orioles. It still could happen.
Well, the Orioles are going to trade anybody that's in this realm. They're going to trade Sir Anthony Dominguez. They're going to trade Zach Eflin. They should trade Shigano. I know they're a little bit worried about the relationship internationally with bringing in a player who finally commits to the Orioles over many other spots, and then you deal him away. But it's a 1-year contract, so I think they should deal him away. Who else? That you mentioned Mullins. He should get dealt away. So yeah, this is just the beginning for the Orioles.
I think
Ryan O'Hearn for sure, and his market's already been set now with Josh Naylor getting to mid-level pitching prospects. We'll get to that later, but that's going to be a somewhat similar return for O'Hearn. O'Hearn's a better bat, but ideally you're DHing him a bit. He can do some first base. Maybe it's a fit for a team like the Red Sox. I don't want to get too deep into that right now. I want to stay on task, but that is another guy that will for sure be moved for a couple B prospects, perhaps.
Yeah, Brewers. Anyway, we can guess anybody, but they have, to me, I think the Orioles have the most. We'll talk about the Diamondbacks a little later. They have a lot, and I think the Diamondbacks may have a little bit higher quality too to give out there.
Okay. And what are we thinking about the Mets? I think they'll go get at least one more bullpen piece. I don't think this is the last thing they'll do just for the bullpen alone. They have prospect capital. They're in win now mode. Steve Cohen's 5th season owning the team. He said 3 to 5 year plan. I want one of these titles. You got to push your chips in.
What did you say the Mets have? That's been working really well. Pitching factory. I don't know that they'll go get another guy. You have a closer. So if you're going high end, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if they go high end. Will they get someone else? Maybe. But to me, they do better. David Stearns has done better working in the fringes. You know, famously, the Brewers have the DFA bullpen that just is lights out every year. So to me, I think they maybe will find value there and maybe try to be able to find a bigger bat. Maybe it'll pry a center fielder away from somebody because that's a big need. Also, don't forget, third base is a need too. I get it. Vientos was a postseason hero, but if you can upgrade there, that's huge, huge for the Mets.
I think Senga's going to have a nice rest of the regular season into the playoffs as long as he stays on the field. I really like Manaea. I like the staff. The starting staff, I think, can start a playoff series and thrive. For me, I am still going after a high leverage, big bullpen arm. And I would be willing to give up a top level prospect to try and get someone that's under control for multiple years. Or if they want to go more of the short-term route, like a Ryan Helsley. There are a lot of good relievers that are out there, Kratz, that some will definitely be dealt because they're free agents after this year, and some will have to command something big like Yohan Duran, Griffin Jacks, Emmanuel Clase. I don't think Cade Smith's going to be moved, but I'm sure the Guardians will have conversations about a guy like him as well, right? You've got that tier where it's multiple years of control, and it's guys that can close out a World Series for you or be an 8th inning guy to an Edwin Diaz in the 9th. And then you've got more of your rental type. Don't you think a Ryan Helsley in the 8th inning would fit quite nicely for the Mets? They've got their 2 shutdown left-handed relievers now. They've got a couple other guys they like in the bullpen. And then you pair someone like Helsley with Edwin Diaz. Now we're talking, and that's a guy that is going to be a free agent after this year. You don't think they'll do something else like that or go for a player like that? You could look at the Pirates with Bednar and with Dennis Santana. I don't give a crap what your prior role was. If you're joining the Mets, you're going to be in the 8th inning. I know you sometimes, we debated this a lot. Every guy's different. There might be a few of them that say, hey, I'm 9th inning, and then the Mets are not the right team for you. But I feel like most of them understand the deal. Do you think Helsley would have a problem because he's about to hit free agency and he still wants to be a closer the next couple months? I don't think it makes a difference anymore in terms of what you get paid. If he shuts down the 8th and he's a G in the playoffs for the Mets, he'll probably get more money.
No, but I don't think the player cares at all. That's not what I'm getting at. I think the teams that are going to be bidding, the teams that need a true closer, are going to be the ones at the front of bidding up for Ryan Helsley. If the Mets call and they have a similar package for the Cardinals, which the Mets, Cardinals, Nolan Arenado, maybe he'll go to New York. Who knows? They need a third baseman. Anyway, if that package is out there for Helsley, teams that need closers, like the Phillies need a closer. The Cardinals can go to them and be like, all right, well, this is the package. Like, we need a little more from you. I think that's why I don't think they would get a closer type, because other teams will bid that up. I don't think the Mets are going to overbid for that type of pitcher.
Okay, but then my idea of someone like Dennis Santana would
Love
really
it.
fit the
I love
mold
it.
there, right?
Yes.
Really sneaky good season. He's shut down some games. He can easily slot in for your high leverage seventh, eighth inning type swing and miss. And the thing with the bullpen is that you can try to build it as best as possible in the offseason, but it's near impossible because it's so volatile. The Dodgers are a good example of that. They spent a lot of money on their bullpen, and some of the guys were looking at and going, how is no one going after this player? Tanner Scott was different. He cost a ton of money. Now he's hurt. Kirby Yates was more of the example where we're like, how is no one going after him? I think some GMs like to work on their bullpen at the trade deadline. That's the one spot I feel like they, I don't want to say leave open, but understand that they might move prospects for, because you want to catch the right arm at the right time. Do you agree?
Yeah, healthy. I mean, you start locking in a Tanner Scott for a long time, and you're like, you even like a Kirby Yates. Now you get like some type of injury early in the season, teams can see where guys are at, their usage by the trade deadline, and it's the true rental. As much as relievers don't want to hear this, they are true rentals, and they're paid like rentals, and they're driven like a rental. Like, that's the biggest thing. And so teams, I think you're right. I think you hit it right on the head, that they're finding that value at the trade deadline and not necessarily in the offseason, which I don't agree, but that's the route they're going.
So, in summary, Orioles just getting going with their sale of guys that are going to be free agents after this year or maybe after next year, right? Selling away short-term pieces. And for the Mets, this was a very primary need. They wanted to have two shutdown lefties in their bullpen. Now they've accomplished that. Check. And they can work on other things for the next week. Coming up next, Ken Rosenthal, trade deadline talk on FT. Hey, check out Mayday on Mondays, sometimes on Tuesdays. Trevor's got a little bit of a different schedule the next couple weeks, but he's freaking awesome, and we want to give this show a little bit of love. We're essentially going ad-free today. I can't account for what YouTube sends you, but if you're watching on YouTube today, we're just going to give you a few promos, some love for some of the shows around the FT network. It's a big time of year for us, so go give Trevor a little sub over on his page, and also check out his show on our YouTube channel, usually on Mondays at 4:00 Eastern time. Okay, let's hit some rumors as we have time here during the TV breaks. John Heyman said the Yanks have talked to the Pirates about Oneil Cruz and some others. Prices said, quote, steep, but that's no surprise. Noah Hiles on it. Noah Hiles covering this team every day, talking about the Pirates. Kratz, I don't think they're trading Oneil Cruz. I think it's just time to listen and see how the rest of the league values him. But I think they'll trade other guys. I think they'll trade other long-term assets if possible. I would not move Cruz.
They should trade some guys. I wouldn't move Cruz, but if the value's there, and the Yankees are going to overpay for exit velocity. They're the exit velocity darlings. They want all of the guys that hit the ball the hardest, because they feel like that is a tool that if you can teach a guy to hit, you can help him make contact with scouting reports, he's going to mash the ball. And right now, like, if your team is not making any moves, this is the exact reason why. This price is steep right now. Not just because it's Oneil Cruz with control, but because teams just are like, I remember one time I was in a potential trade, and the team said, yeah, we'd love to pick him up. Backup catcher, no real value. They said, we want a top 10 prospect. The team I was with was like, what? No. Like, what? That is ridiculous. And then by the end of my 10-day DFA process, it was like cash considerations or like an old guy that was in AA that they traded for me. Like they just set the bar super steep for elite guys and for the low level guys. And if somebody's desperate, maybe they'll pay it.
Yeah, and I think Oneil Cruz is a special player who has not blossomed to his complete ability yet.
A Pirates player that hasn't blossomed to his complete ability yet. Oh my gosh. And another team saying, oh man, we would love to have him because his steep swing angle could be corrected because we know what we're doing and maybe the Pirates don't. Just
Bingo.
saying.
Same with Mitch Keller. You're going to see him thrive somewhere else. With the top news here. Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay,
now we
cool.
can. Ken
well,
couldn't hear me. I was just looking out for Ken.
Okay, well, I gave Ken the pretty intro. Let's get right to the news about the Mets, Ken. They pick up Gregory Soto for their bullpen. What else do you know about not just this, but what else the Mets could be doing after this?
They want more as far as the bullpen is concerned. And Will Salmon at The Athletic noted a few weeks ago, I believe it was, that teams look at their young pitching, their prospect pitching, pretty favorably. And they have guys that they can move. They've really rebuilt their system well. So they're in good position to do not just a deal like this with Soto, but other deals for other relievers if that's what they want to do.
Is the value out there for the Mets to say we want more of, we talked about it earlier, more of a Dennis Santana type than say they're going to get outbid for a Emmanuel Clase, a Bednar, because they already have a closer?
It's a good question. And always, Eric, you know this too, with closers and late inning guys, the psychology of going from the ninth inning to the eighth inning, as certain pitchers would, that you mentioned, that's always an issue. So maybe a Santana for them makes more sense. At the same time, I believe Edward Diaz has an opt-out after this year. So a closer with control beyond this year would also be useful. But you have to worry about how he's going to react to not pitching the ninth, especially if he's a guy who is not signed. Now, Class A is signed cheaply, so it wouldn't be as much of an issue with him. It would be more the pride factor. But I don't know that Class A is even getting moved.
What about the other needs for them? We heard third base. We heard center field for the Mets. Which is more of a priority? Because they have Vientos, because they have Tyrone Taylor, they have options. Is there a priority there for the Mets?
It would seem to me center field is more the priority. And third base, as you mentioned, it's Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio. Now, those guys are available too, and possibly the Mets trade one of them to do something else. But in my view, that position they can continue patching together. Is it ideal? No. But it's somewhere where you want to give some guys a little bit of time. Now, you can argue, if you're a Mets fan, you probably would argue, those guys have all gotten their chances. Let's move on. But center field, to me, that's something that they've been focused on. And a guy like Harrison Bader, who they had before, would make sense. Luis Robert Jr. is someone that they've talked about. So I can see them going any number of ways on both. They could do a third baseman. I just don't see it as important as perhaps the outfielder.
And lastly, on this trade, let's hit the Orioles side of the equation. Ken, zero surprise here. They're going to unload any player that's in this type of position, right? A free agent after this year, and maybe even if there's a year and a half of control, depending on the player.
No question. And Scott, it's interesting that we're a week out here, or almost a week out, and this has started for them. And it had to start. You have so many guys on expiring contracts, from Eflin and Shigano to now Dominguez and Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins Jr. All of these guys, plus more, that you can't just wait until the last day and then pull the trigger all of a sudden. No, you've got to go somewhat in sequence. I can't say that they have it all planned out. We're going to trade Mullins on Tuesday, O'Hearn on Wednesday. No, but you have to get the ball rolling, and they did with this trade.
All right, you wrote a great article about the Padres. I just read it this morning about the urgency of AJ Preller. He's always urgent, and you even said that in your article. Can you give us a synopsis of how AJ Preller will attack the trade deadline differently or could attack it differently than other GMs do that are in different situations than he's in?
Well, the premise of it, Erik, as you mentioned, is that he's always in an urgent position. So when I've heard from other executives in the last couple of weeks, well, they've got to do something this year because they're going to lose King and they're going to lose Cease and they lose Suarez to free agency. All of that is possible for sure. But when has AJ Preller not operated like that? And I know his contract's up next year, and you can make the case, well, he might be trying to get a new contract. But again, he always operates the same way. So he is going to try to do some things. Now, he's identified what he wants, 1 or 2 bats. They also could look for bullpen help because their guys have thrown an awful lot, as good as they are. And if they trade Cease, which is possible, then they would need some kind of backfill in the rotation at the very least. So if you ask me what AJ Preller is going to do, I have no earthly idea. If you ask me, is he going to be busy? Yes, I would expect he'd be busy, perhaps buying and selling, perhaps just buying. I don't know. But this is a guy who, unlike some of his peers, not all, but some, is not worried about so much what the models look like and what the surplus value is going to be. He routinely goes for it. Now, it doesn't always work. We know that. And it hasn't always worked with the free agents. Yes, of course. When you fire as constantly as he fires, you're going to miss sometimes. That's just the nature of baseball. It's the nature in every aspect of this game, from players to front office people to media. No one is always right. But what I appreciate about him and what I believe fans should appreciate is at least this guy takes a shot. He doesn't sit there and worry and talk himself out of things. He talks himself into things.
As a Padres fan, do they have to look at it like a ledger sheet? Say, okay, we get rid of Cease, that's $7 million. On this side of the ledger, he could spend this. Or because, like you said, we don't know about the financial situation. There was a lot of drama early with the family. Is it, if you're a Padres fan, can you look at it that way and say, man, if we could just drop this guy's contract, we could pick up this? Or is it not going to be a dollar for dollar ledger? Or could it go up higher?
We don't know the answer to that. And clearly they have had some different financial restrictions in recent years since the passing of Peter Seidler that they didn't before. And they're in a funny spot with the luxury tax. They're way over the first threshold. They're a little bit over the second threshold. Now, do they want to get under the second threshold? I don't know that that matters so much to them. But money isn't always, it's always a concern with every team. So I would imagine there's some of that coming into play here. For instance, they can't simply add $20 million of payroll, probably. But I don't know if it's exactly as you said, Erik, where if you're taking here, you've got to subtract there. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. They might
Ken,
not
let's
either,
hit.
for that matter. They might be in a situation where they compile what they're going to do or what they want to do and then take it to ownership, and ownership says yay or nay.
Right. Hey, let's always remember at this time of year, the GMs are working their butts off, but then everything has to get approved. They have a boss. They're the agent for the boss, which is the owner, and money is getting moved mid-season. They don't plan that way. So anyway, let's work on a team that has been difficult with budgeting the last few years for Jerry Dipoto. And that's the other big deal to hit. Josh Naylor is acquired. To me, he seems like a Dipoto dream. He makes contact. He's a gamer. He's got some pop. What did you think of this move for the Mariners and potentially what's next for them?
I liked it for the Mariners. And right away after the trade was made, you saw their beat people basically reporting that they're not done. And they're also in the mix for Eugenio Suarez. If they got both those guys, that theoretically should fix their offense, even though, of course, Seattle's a more difficult place to hit than Arizona. I get it, all that. But Suarez would be a coup, no doubt, especially with the Yankees and Cubs and other teams interested. But I did like this move, and Dipoto too, because he has multiple things to do. He also might want bullpen help. Can't wait till the last day and do everything. So he got a jump start of the market, just as he did last year with the Rosarena. And I am quite sure they have a lot of balls in play, a lot of balls in the air, and they're not done. They can't be done.
Let's stick with the Diamondbacks here. They got rid of Naylor. Obviously, Eugenio Suarez is going to be maybe a bidding war, we assume, because everybody seems to need a third baseman that has 35 dingers, 35 plus. But is there a case where the Diamondbacks offload more players than any other team because of all their expiring contracts?
Yes. And when I reported yesterday that they were going to sell, what I was told was, we don't know how far we're going to go. So could they unload 5 or 6 guys? Yes, they could. I do not expect them to trade Gallen and Kelly. I expect them to trade Gallen or Kelly. Now, beyond that, and beyond Suarez, you're talking about Randall Grichuk. You're talking about Shelby Miller, possibly if he gets back healthy. They can do still a number of things. I don't know that they'll go beyond the expiring contracts because they're going to want to compete next year. But they're in a situation right now. They know that this season, mostly because of injuries, is all but lost. They've got this incredibly dynamic offense, or had it with Josh Naylor involved. And because of the pitching injuries, they just step back toward 2026. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But could they be a team that's quite active? Yes. I expect the Orioles to make the most trades. Pittsburgh, we're not sure about yet, but Arizona is going to make multiple deals as well.
But why not both? Why not both Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen?
Erik, mostly because you've got to get through the season. And they're not going to have enough pitching to get through the season if they trade both. Now, could they do it? Might they get pushed enough to where they would do it and then you figure out the rest of the season? Yes. But it's also not a group there, and this goes for the owner, Ken Kendrick, the general manager, Mike Hazen, and everyone in that front office, that likes to lose 100 games. They've done that. Now, they're not going to lose 100 this year, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. They don't want to just struggle through the last 2 months. And with Kelly, he might be in more demand right now, even though he's older than Gallen. I'm not sure how that dynamic's playing out. Kelly, in my view, they would have a chance to re-sign. They'd give him a qualifying offer, most likely. And then he's been a guy, granted, that has accepted 2 below-market deals to sign with Arizona, to stay with Arizona. But he's comfortable there, and with the right deal, perhaps he would stay. He's going to be 37 next season, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be another reason, too. You know this, Erik. Once you trade a player, it becomes that much harder to get him back.
It's still surprising to me, Ken, if they get an offer that makes sense and that's better than what they would get for a comp pick, right? And it's $50 million or more, I think they'd get after the first round. If it's less, they would get it after the second round, which starts to not matter as much. Do you really think that if they get solid offers for both of them? Kelly's got a great track history in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and I think some teams probably figure they can fix Gallen, that they would deal both and maybe try and get someone else to fill the innings down the stretch, whether it's a veteran or one of the young guys that they pick up and they try out?
Certainly could do that. And I can't recall the exact circumstance, Scott, but they've done this before. I believe they traded someone, maybe it was Greinke. I think it was Greinke. The year they traded him, they backfilled with Mike Leake. So, yes, of course they could do that. But my understanding is that is not their initial intention. Now, as you guys know, we're in the final days here. Teams are going to push for starting pitching. So if they get pushed on both, and if they cross the threshold that they have set for both, of course, they will do the trades and worry about the rest later. But it seems that their inclination is not to do that.
Okay, I've got one more, maybe EK, one more at the finish line here. Mine is a general question. Have we learned anything about teams on the fences, on the fence in the past 24 to 48 hours? The Angels, perhaps. It sounds like the Cardinals will be selling. Have you learned anything about teams like that?
The Diamondbacks were the first domino, and certainly we learned yesterday and saw yesterday that they were going to sell. The Cardinals are certainly leaning in that direction and are expected to sell as well. Kansas City on the fence. Tampa Bay on the fence. A lot of teams still on the fence. I would expect Minnesota, they're going to sell their expiring contract guys at the very least. But this weekend will be a big weekend for a number of teams. And after this weekend, we will seemingly have some more clarity on just who's in and out. Kansas City is a fascinating one to me. They don't want to sell. They want to compete. They want to contend. They feel like they've built a good team. And all this talk of Lugo is fine, but they're not as into it, from what I understand, as the rest of the world is. So that's one team to watch for sure.
Ken, I have a benefit of not needing to troll you on Twitter. I can ask your questions right here. You said about the Blue Jays earlier needing a starting pitcher because of Max Scherzer getting older, and I think you had mentioned Bassett's contract is up. Is there really more of a need for starting pitching with the Jays than that relief pitching role, or maybe some slug, even if Santander comes back?
Varsho's coming back first. We don't know about Santander. They certainly need bullpen help because of the injuries that they've incurred in the bullpen in recent weeks, really all season. A starter, I don't know that it's a necessity, but you're talking about relying on Max Scherzer, who, let's face it, has been on the injured list quite a bit in recent years. Talking about relying on Eric Lauer, who has been tremendous for them, but you don't know for sure if he's going to be able to sustain it the whole season. So you're not only getting a person in place for next year if you get that controllable starter, but you're also reinforcing what you have for this year. And I want to address some complaints from Blue Jays fans yesterday because of Fair Territory focusing on the Yankees' poor performance Wednesday night instead of praising the Jays. We've been praising the Jays. The Jays are doing great. We all love what the Jays are doing. The focus after 4 errors in 3 innings the other night, 12 errors in 10 games against the Blue Jays, that was going to be the Yankees. That's how the world works, folks.
Well said. You want praise for the Jays? Ken literally just gave it again. There is praise for the Jays. It is on the record. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, we're covering this team a ton this year. Not as much last year because they weren't good. So we'll talk much more about the Jays, including next week. We'll see you next week on Monday on Fair Territory.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's Ken Rosenthal, and there's the show promo for you. Fair Territory. Yesterday's episode is full of notes and information. We tried to get to other things because yesterday's show covered a lot from Ken's notes column and what he had been hearing. So tried to get to some other things today, but make sure you backtrack for that one and then catch Ken live. It's going to be a well-attended show on Monday morning. We'll be right back to hit the Naylor trade, give you our thoughts on the Diamondbacks and the Mariners. Hey, Friar Territory is covering the Padres. I know we just talked about them, so I want to make sure everyone's aware of some of the other shows on the FT network. This is a big week to promote what everyone's been working really hard at. Heath Bell is part of the mix with Kyle Glazer. So is Mike Cameron, and Kyle brings on a ton of the local San Diego writers as well. So you make sure you check out that show. Give it a little subscribe love on YouTube, even if you're a Dodger fan and you hate them. We did this yesterday with Snakes Territory, and they hit the 1,000 subs, so we appreciate that. All right, we're back. Let's see if I can grab a question or two. We'll try and do this much more frequently over the next week. Neil had asked about the Halos in the chat, so I made sure I got that one in there. Doug said Mets apparently in on Luis Robert. What's a package look like? Not much. Not much. I saw some people throw, oh, they might keep him and then pick up the option and see from there. I'm like, $20 million?
Who might keep him?
They're like,
Who might keep him?
I don't want to call someone out, but the report said they have financial flexibility since they have a low payroll, so maybe they'll just keep him. And I'm like, if he's not worth 20 on the market based on his current bat, why would a team just keep him for what's essentially the qualifying offer, but it's not because it's a club option? That's just not how this game works. They're going to have to just eat it and give him up for a much lower prospect return than they anticipated. That's just how it works. I don't think they're going to have to necessarily eat money if he goes to a team like the Mets or the Phillies, but you're just not going to get more than maybe a C level prospect, a B tops.
20 to,
and when I say C
level.
and B, exactly. So when I say A, B, C, generally, someone asked me this the other day, top 10 prospect in an org, and I know it's different per org. Top 10 prospect in an org for me is an A. B is 10 through 20. C is 20 through 30.
That's it. That's it. Because the team's getting there is no bigger roll of the dice. People will be like, well, Sandy Alcantara, he's not a roll of the dice like Luis Robert. Luis Robert, you're rolling the dice. He may be on your bench by September 1st if you trade for him because he doesn't perform. He keeps playing on a bad team. He will get an opportunity, first time in his life, where he has to prove himself if he gets traded to a team. It's a true roll of the dice. And whoever picks him up, he would have to hit 20 homers in 2 months for somebody to be like, yeah, we'll pay him $20 million next year. So it is a complete roll of the dice for whatever team gets him.
And he desperately wants to be dealt so that he can try and reestablish his value and his career in general. Cam Maybin should be with us next. Hot Corner, let's sizzle. Good trade. Hey, Cam Maybin with Erik Kratz. I'm Scott Braun. It's Foul Territory covering Josh Naylor to the Seattle Mariners. They need corner infield help, and look at them go here. Cam, you first. What did you think of this one that broke last night?
Well, first off, guys, I do not control the Wi-Fi. It's getting close towards the end of the month. End of the month, the phone starts acting up because they want to remind you, make sure you pay that bill on the first. So I just want to say that. But as far as the M's go, I thought this was a great move for the M's. I think, when you talk about the M's and pitching, they have a plethora of that. And they just reloaded in this year's draft. And they do a great job of developing their arms. So when you look at these two prospects that they sent, both in their top 20, and Garcia, listen, he is a punch-out machine. I think this guy is very close to being in the big leagues already. I think the other young man is in A-ball, but again, a top prospect. And then, then the Diamondbacks unload Naylor before possibly a hammy happens or something happens and they can't unload him. So I think this is a great deal. I believe in Kevin Seitzer and what he can do. Hopefully that is that piece. I know they wanted Eugenio Suarez, but I think the price was too high. And I like this move for both teams. And then on the other side, too, the Diamondbacks believe they have Jordan Lawler ready. So I don't know if that somehow they move Eugenio over to first right now, bring him. We'll see what happens, but I like this trade for both teams.
Jeez, Cam, don't be putting that hammy all over Josh Naylor. He just got to Seattle.
How Crafty. Diamondbacks
Come
are
on.
going, we need
Cam
arms.
Trying to put that hammy all over Josh. He just got there in his M's uniform. I like this. I like this pickup. I honestly feel like Ryan O'Hearn's sitting there going, whew, okay, good. I'm not going to Seattle. Because there is some you need to have that plate discipline locked in, because there's going to be days where the ball just is not going. It's just not coming out of the bat. It's not coming out of the batter's box. You need to make sure you have your plate discipline, which Josh Naylor either worked on this year or he has made a specific concerted effort to improve. I think it's a great pickup for him, and I don't think the Mariners need to be done, and I love that they've actually done something, because we tied so many first basemen to the Mariners in the offseason, and they finally got one.
And let me add this too. And I think at the end of the day, this is a great trade, and I think Cratz agree. Randy Arozarena has been out his mind this season. Cal Raleigh could be the MVP. At the end of the day, this is a great piece. He had some fire, he had some fuel. But the what they say, the straw that stirs his drink, it's Julio Rodriguez. He has to start to play like a superstar. He brings the energy, he brings a smile, but his play hasn't matched that charismatic energy that he brings. He has to play like a superstar. When you add Josh Naylor and Jerry DiPoto goes and makes this type of move, your superstar has to play just like that, a superstar.
Cam, you said they get Naylor, and yes, Kratz, they had been looking into him since last offseason. They called about him when the Guardians put him on the trade block. Diamondbacks made a better offer. It was a pick and Slade Ciccone, who's been in the rotation for Cleveland. I thought it was a big mistake for them to trade him. For me, it was Cleveland kind of telling us, we don't totally believe in what we're selling this year. They felt like Santana was a better replacement. That was a mistake in my mind. But anyway, we move on here. I think Naylor's an underrated player. I know he's not the best defensively. I would say he's a drop below average, but on offense, this guy can bring it for you in big spots. He is one of the best contact hitters in the sport, yet still gives you slug. He actually even has 11 stolen bases this year. I just think he's a winning player. When I watch him play games, he does winning things, and he makes clutch performances, or has clutch performances hitting wise, very often throughout a season. I don't know what his win probability added number is, but I would bet you, if you watch Josh Naylor from front to back in the past few years with the Guardians or this year with the Diamondbacks, you'd go, yep, this guy's a winner. He belongs on a playoff team. That's what he's doing right now with Seattle. Next layer here, Cam. There were some rumblings that the Mariners are still talking to the Diamondbacks about Geno Suarez. Get in line. There's 5 to 7 teams that are going to be going after him. Do you not think that the M's could make this move as well? They do need both. I know some people like Williamson and his glove over at third, but let's be real. Anybody that can get Geno Suarez is really talking, okay? So do you think that the Mariners could still go after him? Because these two teams like to trade. They match up well. The M's have a really good farm system. Like, those are one arm is more of a high risk arm. The other one that you mentioned, Garcia, who just debuted on Monday, he should be a solid left-handed reliever, swing and miss guy, ground ball guy in the majors for years to come if he stays healthy. So that's a nice pickup for Arizona, but that's nothing for the Mariners farm system. Like, they didn't even touch, for most publications, their top 10 to 15 prospects for this.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm still.
Cam, you're sounding a little fuzzy, dude. We got to get you back. We'll work on you.
We don't like bionic Cam. We like regular
No.
Cam.
We like regular Cam. We'll work on that. Stay tuned. But for me, Kratz, I'll throw the same question at you. Do you think the Mariners could be real players for Geno Suarez to bring him back to Seattle, which in my opinion would kind of be his nightmare? Remember, he's been talking like, oh, the Yankees would be cool. The Reds would be awesome for a reunion. I haven't heard him on the record talk about Seattle. It has nothing to do with the org. That park's kind of a nightmare. For Naylor, he's a contact guy. It might take a little bit of his pop away, but he also sheds the qualifying offer. He's going to be pretty happy with being 28 years old hitting free agency. For Geno Suarez hitting free agency, going back to Seattle. And also, let's remember, Seattle dealt him away, and they were somewhat public about how they didn't want as much swing and miss in their lineup. They kind of took a shot indirectly at Geno. I don't know. I think someone else is going to bid higher for him, don't you?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. And that was ill-advised, taking a shot at Geno Suarez, because his strikeouts were not a product of Geno Suarez. It was a product of what was going on in Seattle. Could he improve if he goes there with Kevin Seitzer? Look, it's 2 months. Kevin Seitzer's sitting there going, hey, go do what you do. And to me, I don't think they're in that realm. I don't think they're even going to be close to Eugenio Suarez, because I just think other teams need him, have a fit, and will pay extra. Jerry Dipoto loves to trade. He loves to make moves, finagle things, but he's got one of his hands tied behind his back from ownership. And it might not be a money thing with Geno, but it ends up being a money thing because of all the prospects that need to be moved. I just don't see the Mariners doing it.
No, it is a money thing too. Geno costs $5 million the rest of the year. That's real money.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's not that much money. It's not that much money for the Mariners. It's more money.
It's not. I disagree on this one. It's not that much money. It shouldn't be for the Mariners, but it is, because ownership's super cheap. Anyone in Seattle knows that. They saved up for years, and then they let them down with the budget the last few years. I don't want to play the whole ownership cheap game, but it is true. I don't know what Naylor's getting for the rest of this year, but it's at least a few $1,000,000, right, Kratz? Based on his ARB number.
Yeah, I think he got 10 or 11 in ARB. I'd have to look it right up.
So probably a few mil left. Then you add Geno. Now you're looking at going to your owner and saying, I need 8 for the last couple months of the season. And their owner is cheap. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if he got turned down on that. I mean, Seattle in the past sometimes has had to ask teams to give them some money back on trades, even though it wasn't that type of player. You know what I mean? Where it's like that awkward phone call and you're like, can you eat a little? My owner's making me do it. I'll give you a better prospect. And the teams are like, what?
I hear you. To me, the only way Geno's money comes into play is when you start talking about the teams over the luxury tax threshold that are going to pay $5 million for Geno. We're at the 110%, so we're technically paying 10.1 for Geno, or 11.1 for Geno instead of just the 5s. To me, that's where that comes in. I think the Mariners will make another move, and I think it could be close to that amount of money. To me, I thought I read something that they were in the $9 million range, where they could move and be able to have $9 million worth of movement at the trade deadline. So does that mean they need to trade somebody? I don't know who they would get rid of as far as for money, but I'm saying they're still under that, and Geno would still be under it. again, it's kind of like the closer thing we talked about. I just think other teams are going to put in a larger bid, whether it's prospects or whatever it is, to get Gino, and that's where they'll fall short.
Okay. I think Willie Castro could be a name. I don't know if he's been linked there, but he could play a number of positions for the team.
Okay.
And yet, if Williamson does thrive for them the last couple months, Castro can fill in other spots. I see more of that type of move for this team. They love Twins players too. I mean, Polanco's been a guy that they love. And anyway, I think they did solve a big issue over at first base. You know, it was Rowdy for a bit while he was hot. Then Donovan Solano and Luke Raley. This is a big upgrade. This is a 123 OPS plus. That's 23% above league average. Like Kratz mentioned, the on-base percentage is fire this year. He smashes right-handed pitching. I know it's going to be in Seattle, so things might tick down a little bit in the power department, but nice pickup here by the Seattle Mariners. We're going to cover the Arizona Diamondbacks side of this deal later on. Jesse Friedman from Snakes Territory is going to join us, but we'll take a quick break and come back with a lot more. We have a breaking news trade. Cody Stavenhagen is going to join us soon on the Tigers. This is a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're back, and we have JJ Cooper with more on the Arizona Diamondbacks return with the Seattle Mariners deal. So let's cue that if we have it. Do we have it good to go? JJ.
So what did the D-backs get for first baseman Josh Naylor? Well, let's start by just saying if you are trading a rental first baseman, Naylor will be a free agent at the end of the season. You're not going to get a ton. Don't expect a top 100 prospect. And you didn't see that here. You are talking about Ashton Izzi, right-hander, who is the number 13 prospect in our Mariners top 30, and Brandyn Garcia, left-hander, who is our number 19 prospect. They're very different, though. They're both pitchers. But in Izzi, you are talking about a potential starter, one who is far away. He's in A-ball right now. He has a starter's mix. He manages to miss bats. There's everything here to maybe be a starter, but you're also talking about a guy who's an A-ball who has a lot of those, a lot of work to do because there's a lot of work between A-ball and the big leagues. If he develops as the Mariners hoped and now the D-backs hope, you are talking about a guy who could start, could be 3-4 years down the road in Arizona. That's a realistic timeline if everything goes right. That's good. But at the same time, you also have to acknowledge that a lot of these pitchers who look like this in A-ball end up being relievers. Some of them end up getting hurt. Some of them run into control troubles or other things that derail them along the way. You are talking about a chance at a big league starter who also has a chance to be a big league reliever, and you just understand that you are taking the risk that a lot of things still have to happen for this to all come together. Garcia is very much the opposite end of the spectrum here. Garcia is a big league ready. He did pitch a couple of games with Seattle. Big league ready lefty reliever. It's solid stuff. You're talking about a 96, 97 mile an hour sinker. He works very horizontally, in and out. He's a lefty with a sweeper and a sinker who you're kind of going to really expect him to be solid against lefties, and you hope he's good enough against right-handed hitters to make it work, as a optionable reliever. I think that is a key thing here. Every team covets relievers who can go up and down. So when you are worn out in your bullpen, you can send a guy down, or if you're worn out and you need to bring a guy up, you can bring a guy up. And then when you are kind of in a better place, you can send that guy back down. That is something that Brandyn Garcia will be able to do for a couple of years here.
Hey, we've got Cody Stavenhagen. Damn it, Cody. I can't even say your name today. Cody Stavenhagen. This is the first time I ever messed it up, though. So I'm 99 for 100. Give me a little credit there. Cody, good to see you, dude. Covering the team for The Athletic, covering the Detroit Tigers and Tiger Territory for us. So, Cody, I'm going to start with this one because this has been going on since the last week of the first half of the season. Are the Tigers okay?
Well, they're not okay right now. They've lost 10 of 11. If you count the All-Star break, they have one win in the past 16 days, and they haven't just been losing. They've been losing in pretty ugly fashion. Lack of hitting. Bullpen has actually been bad going back to the start of June. Starting pitching has not been great. In their series in Pittsburgh, we saw probably the sloppiest play we've seen from the Tigers. So are they okay? I think that's a harder question to answer, right? How do you ever navigate the ups and downs of a major league season? How do you know when to react, when to really kind of freak out about something? I think there's a lot of evidence that suggests the Tigers are a good team, not just the way they started this season, but look at how they ended last year. Look at their run differential, which is still a pretty good predictive stat. I think they're going to be able to snap out of this, but this seems to keep happening night after night, and it does have to stop eventually. So, really bad stretch of baseball for the Tigers. It's got to end soon, or the tenor of these conversations could start changing.
Are we starting to see a Minnesota Tigers collapse of last year? No, that may be too soon. Maybe too soon. But the one thing that you said, you're seeing it in a lot of like different ways. The bullpen, there's different things. To me, it's the hitting. Is there a concern in Detroit about going in? Granted, you go into Pittsburgh, they have good pitching. They have really good pitching, and they got shellacked in the box. To me, is this lack of hitting more of a regression to the mean because of some of these guys who had breakout years? You talk about Spencer Torkelson was going to go to AAA. You talk about Zach McKinstry, everybody, all these storylines that built the Tigers offense early. Now are they coming back down, or is it just a blip in the radar?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some level of regression. I felt as though the Tigers overachieved offensively in the first half. It's not to say they're a bad offense, but they finished the first half as the second best run scoring lineup in the American League. That's a pretty lofty standard. And yeah, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, some of those guys, pretty reasonable to expect regression. Now, Spencer Torkelson is actually still raking, but Riley Green, who's carried this lineup, has been in a slump. Kerry Carpenter, who's one of their most important hitters, is on the injured list. Some of these guys you got back from the IL, Matt Vierling, Parker Meadows, you were kind of expecting some contributions. They've been rusty. They've been off to very slow starts. I think that's still going to be a big deal for the Tigers in the second half if McKinstry slumps, if Javi Baez slumps, if couple other guys, even Gleyber Torres, who's been fantastic. Is he going to have a 370, 380 OBP the rest of the way? I don't know. That's a high bar. They need the likes of Meadows, Vierling, some of these other guys to step up and carry some of the load here. Whereas right now, it seems like almost every hitter in this order is going through a little bit of something. Torkelson's been one of the brighter spots, actually, and no one else has stepped up to carry that load. I do think it's fair to worry, how good is this offense? Is this an average offense? I think it's probably realistically more of an average offense than the elite type of offense they played like in the first half.
Okay, let's get to rumors and needs. The trade deadline is coming up, and no better time to struggle and say, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't notice this. I didn't notice we had this problem, and now we need to fill it. Where do you see and where do you hear that the moves are going to come for the Tigers in the next few days?
Yeah, I know we just talked about the offense. My sense right now, after a couple conversations, not a lot of upgrades being going on there. I know people like to mention them in connection with Eugenio Suarez. The fit makes sense on paper. I'm told the Tigers are not closing the door, but not closing the door seems a lot different than what the Mariners are saying, which is that it's their top priority. Now, there's always a little bit of posturing at the trade deadline, but I don't get the sense the Tigers want to get in a bidding war or ship any major prospects at this deadline. They're not going to trade any of their top 100 type guys. Max Clark's going nowhere. Kevin McGonigal's going nowhere. Even if you get into that mid-tier of prospects, look, the Tigers are one of these modern front offices that really likes to hoard their talent, that kind of covets their prospects. I just don't see a big splash. Could they find another hitter, platoon type bat to upgrade? Maybe. My sense is that their early efforts on the trade market center on the relief market. This team clearly needs bullpen help. Since the start of June, their bullpen ERA is over 5. They have the worst swing and miss rate. from the bullpen in the entire American League. Now, again, are they going to go get Ryan Helsley? Are they going to go get Emmanuel Clase? I'm not sure. I think Helsley might be on their radar. I'm not expecting an in-division trade for Duran or Clase. This is also the Tigers. They like to be creative. They always seem to have something up their sleeve that no one else is thinking about. I wouldn't be shocked if they identify a couple lesser names to bring in to come help this bullpen. They're already talking about the internal guys they have, some pitchers in AAA they think can help them. They're banking on internal improvements and a couple of the right additions. They hope that can fortify a bullpen that desperately needs help.
Can that bullpen add a certain type of pitcher? So when fans look at it and they go, we get tons of swing and miss out of the bullpen. To me, you're not even like barking down the door of Johan Duran. You're not even looking at guys that don't have a K per nine, over 9 or 10. Is there a certain type of pitcher that matches, like the Mets? The Mets just needed another lefty. They got Gregory Soto. Is there something that matches for that bullpen that would couple well with the Tommy Caneleys of the world?
Yeah, 100%. I think you just nailed it, Eric. It's got to be someone who misses bats, at least in my opinion. You can't have the worst swing and miss rate in the American League from your bullpen. And, there's a correlation between generating swing and miss and winning in the playoffs. So maybe that's not the top end type closer guy, but there are other pitchers out there who miss a lot of bats. Reed Detmers is one name who comes to mind. Like, you can keep going down the list. I think you're right. It needs to be someone who can punch 9, 10, 11 guys per 9 innings. But keep in mind the Tigers also really value pitchers who limit walks. Now, finding a guy who can do both, one of the harder things to do out there. But I think they're going to want a high swing and miss rate without sacrificing a ton of free passes. That's the type of profile I'm looking for.
Right here, Cody. For everybody listening, money. Is there payroll flexibility for the Tigers front office to get these needs done? Whether it's that big arm or, like you said, kind of middle tier arms like a Reed Detmers type of thing. Do they have the cash to do it? Because again, this is a team that offered Alex Bregman, I forget how many $100 million.
180.
Like, is there money?
Yeah, I think I don't think money should be a real concern for the Tigers. They're not close to the luxury tax. They were clearly willing to spend a little more this past offseason. Again, I don't know that they're going to be going after anyone with a huge salary to begin with. I think that has a lot more to do with not being willing to give up their farm system than it does spending money. I don't think cash should be any object for the Tigers at this point.
Now, going into the postseason last year, they had Tarek Skubal, and that's about it. Is there a need to maybe fortify a starting pitching spot to just get the rest of the starting pitchers healthy and ready to go for the postseason? I get it. You're going to have Flaherty. You're going to have Reese Olson. You're going to have Tarek Skubal. I'm not talking about somebody bumping out that main line, but maybe that fourth or fifth starter to fill some of this role until the postseason.
Yeah, the Tigers seem to like what they have internally for the fourth guy, the fifth guy. Cater Montero's actually been okay for them this year. Sawyer Gibson-Long's hurt right now, but they expect him to come back. They signed Jose Urquidy, which is a name a lot of people haven't heard in a while this offseason. He's rehabbing from surgery. They think he's going to come back and pitch in August, September, and be able to start games for them. They just called up Troy Melton, who's a really interesting young guy, can throw 100, gets a ton of swing and miss. He could start. He could move to the pen if need be later in the year. I think that's their plan for the fourth, fifth spots. My personal question, is there merit in going and getting a real guy, like a guy who can start game 2 of a playoff series? I seem to want that more than a lot of people. And I understand, A, starters are expensive. B, in the playoffs, you could argue starting pitching matters less than ever. The Tigers beat the Astros in the playoffs and took the Guardians to 5 last year, based on mixing and matching, based on pitching chaos. You can do that in the postseason, but I'd feel a little bit better having a guy you can really count on, maybe a Merrill Kelly type. I'm told the Tigers don't really love Sandy Alcantara or Zach Gallen, but there's some other pretty quality pitchers out there. As much as Reese Olson, Casey Mize, Jack Flaherty, those are all very capable pitchers, but all of them have been a little bit up and down. I don't know that you're trotting any of them out there for game 2 of the playoffs in Yankee Stadium and thinking, okay, these guys can go 7 scoreless. Maybe you're not feeling that way with a Merrill Kelly type either. But I personally think there's some room to upgrade the rotation, but I'm told the Tigers don't necessarily view that as a real priority.
What is the style of Scott Harris now, getting to know him the last few years? He's running the front office for the Tigers. He has done a really nice job the last few years. This team had a magical run last year. They're great up into the last couple weeks this year. What is his style as far as making moves?
Yeah, pragmatic is always the word that seems to come up around Scott Harris. Very much, I think, a reflection of like the modern executive, right? He's young, he's polished, but he likes his prospects. He believes in calculated risk, finding value on the margins. Not necessarily a guy who's going to go chase stars, chase big names. They did go after Bregman harder than a lot of people, myself included, thought they would this offseason based on other history. But I don't think Scott Harris is the type of GM who actually sees, not that he doesn't see value in the trade deadline, but it's easy for us in the media, for other teams out there to maybe overrate what you can do at the trade deadline. At the end of the day, you're getting, I think this is how the Tigers front office views it. You're getting rentals. You are trading parts of your future for rental type players who may or may not perform in a 2-month window for you. And then in the volatility of the postseason. So yeah, when you think Scott Harris, when you think the Tigers, this is very much a big brain organization now. They operate a little more like the Rays or maybe the Astros of old. The Astros of old did make some aggressive moves at the deadline, but I don't think that swashbuckling, aggressive style at all describes the Tigers.
Cody, one more for you. Do you think that the lack of competition right now in the division affects things at all for this team? You know, gives a little bit of complacency to the front office and really ownership who controls all of the decision makings? Or do you think they're very aware that they could do damage in the playoffs? The American League in general has not been as strong in my mind as it usually is for this season and last season now.
Yeah, I think you may be onto something there, right? This is not an American League with a superpower. The Tigers have been playing very bad baseball as of late, but who's going to beat them in the playoffs? I mean, there's certainly teams who could, but I don't know that there's anyone the Tigers are necessarily fearing right now. And they've lost 10 of 11, and they still lead the AL Central by 8 games. Now, they were up by 15 games not all that long ago. Suddenly, the Guardians are just close enough to be within shouting distance again. But I think maybe that plays a role. I do wonder, would the calculus be any different if the Tigers were only up by 1 or 2 games in their division? There's a real thought that maybe there's more value in acquiring players to get you to the playoffs. Because once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. The Tigers, it would take a pretty historic collapse at this point to miss the postseason. I think they still feel good about the core group they have stacking up against anyone else in the American League. So a little bit of an interesting discussion there. I don't think I'd call it complacency, but I don't think that, when you look and you're up 8 games in the standings, that's definitely not making anyone more urgent in that front office.
Yeah, I like this team. I hope they get aggressive. You've built up the prospect capital. You've got your time to strike. This is the year for it. You've got prime Scooble.
Scott, you could be good for the next 20 million years, assuming all these prospects are exactly what you think you're going to be, which is
That
always
never
how it
happens.
works, right?
That never happens. It really doesn't. It's probably the biggest mistake that front offices make is that they think they're going to be good for longer and the window closes sooner. And you always hear it from former execs. But Cody, this was great, dude. Great combo with you. Tiger Territory is the show that you got to be locked in on with Kieran and Cody. They are dialed on anything that happens, including rumors, plus Austin Jackson for select shows. There's the pretty promo. Cody, thanks for the time, dude. We'll catch you soon. Hopefully we'll talk when the Tigers swing a deal.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. All right, FT fam, we'll be right back. We are well aware that Ryan McMahon is a Yankee, and we're all over it. Mike Rodriguez with a report. According to sources close to the org, the Cubs have decided not to hold any of their promises in the minor league system. Front office ready to consider offers for any younger player types. We've seen this from quite a few insiders too. Moises Ballesteros, Jefferson Rojas, Kevin Alcantara, Christian Hernandez. I'll add Owen Casey to the mix here. This is a good problem, Kratz. They have developed some solid position player talent in the minor leagues, and they are ready to make moves. And they will make moves. So let's keep an eye on the Cubs. And yes, in 2 minutes, we're all over this Rockies-Yankees trade. But Kratz, Cubs, I think, need a bullpen piece. A starter who can start a playoff game, I think, is probably number one. I would say that's number one on the list. Bullpen piece 2, third baseman 3, whether it's somebody that, no, you think they're going to roll with Shaw?
I love Shaw's defense. I get it. You know, he really struggles against East and West pitches, but I really like Shaw's defense at third. Some of the plays he's making, it keeps them athletic. He runs the bases well. You got to get on base to run the bases. But to me, you have to push hard for some type of starting pitcher. And I would love to see them say, you know what, we're the team that's going to push hard for Sandy Alcantara. And I say that because if he continues to trend up by the time he gets to September, do they have him as their number 2 starter in the playoffs? Like, I just feel like they're in a position to maybe be a little reckless. Like, Ballesteros, they called up earlier this year. It didn't work out. It's time. It's okay to give a dude that's hitting like 350 to another team, and it may look like a bad trade right out the gate, but the Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman trade looked like a bad trade. And what did that get the Cubs? A World Series. The Cubs want to win a World Series. They traded for Kyle Tucker to win this year.
It was one of the best trades of all time. Why? Because they hadn't won a World Series in over a century, and they acquired a guy that helped them win a World Series, and you don't know if they win it without him. They had a super small circle of trust back then for Joe Madden riding the, couple guys that he felt good about in the bullpen, and it worked out for them. It's the same status here. I'm not trying to mortgage the whole future, but the point is they have prospect depth. They're in a good position to swing a deal.
Good. Be a little reckless.
FT breaking news. Ryan McMahon is a New York Yankee. His days of suffering in Colorado are over. He goes from one of the worst teams of all time to a Yankees team that can desperately use filling a hole at third base and improving their defense. Kratz, this is one of the elite defenders in our sport at third base for several seasons now. Yankees swing back 2 pitching prospects, which we'll get into coming up in a moment. Griffin Herring and Josh Gross. One of them in the top 10 range on most publications, top 20 for the others. And then you can see Mark Feinsand here pointing out that Ryan McMahon has been much better at the plate over the last 6 weeks. Really, if you break down his season, he was atrocious in April and March, obviously, when the season started. And since then, he's been pretty solid at the dish. He's got big home road splits, but it's not like we haven't seen players go from Colorado and then thrive elsewhere. Keep in mind, the toll that Denver takes on your body and the lack of information that the Colorado Rockies organization provides, because their front office and their prep staff is like 10% of what some of the other teams have to offer. He's going to get to Yankee Stadium and be like, is this Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? Because I was just eating, Skittles off the pavement before. This is freaking crazy. So what do you think about this move? Do you think this is going to help the Yankees a lot?
Yeah, especially since they only gave up 2 pithers. Whatever pithers are, that was what the tweet said, not pitchers. But yes, it's going to help them a ton. It adds the defense. And you say, okay, well, you just picked up a guy who's struggling at third, at the plate. This will improve their defense, which is huge, which has been the talk of the Yankees last postseason to now. They had 4 errors in 1 game. He's not going to be able to clean up all the defense, but it plugs a big spot that they needed. And to me, the value and the things he's going to learn with the Yankees, if he's open to learning it, will be a very significant jump in his offense, because the lack of knowledge, the lack of information that they're given in Colorado. Look at DJ LeMahieu. Good player, absolutely. DJ LeMahieu's words exactly were, we didn't even have any of this stuff. We didn't even have, like, I was expecting him to say, we had half, whatever. They were so far beyond or behind the times, and to be able to get that information to you as a hitter. Oh, and also, he's not going to be one of two guys in the lineup. The Yankees offense is still good. I get it. They're sputtering a little bit, but the Yankees offense is still good. Ryan McMahon all of a sudden is not the guy that you're thinking about, okay, how do we get this guy out? No, it's Judge. It's G. Jazz has been swinging the bat well. Paul Goldschmidt's been swinging the bat well. Now all of a sudden you add in Ryan McMahon. Every time you add in a hitter that's struggling, and he's been better recently, to a good lineup, now that good lineup or that struggling hitter just automatically gets better. So to me, you have the defense that's solidified. Now you're adding to the offense because they weren't getting much offensive production from third base.
The Yankees clearly thought either they didn't have the prospect juice with their offer for Geno Suarez, if they even made one, or maybe they just liked Ryan McMahon better for the team control. He is definitely a better defender than Geno Suarez. Geno's got him beat by far in the bat department. Nobody is disputing that. But Jim Bowden, our resident GM, was on the money on this one, Kratz. He was shooting down thoughts about Geno Suarez landing with the Yankees based on his conversations, which probably came from one of the top people in command with the Yanks. It could have even come from Brian Cashman, if I had to guess. JB was on this show the last couple weeks being like, they don't love Geno's D. They are thinking about some other guys. And they were thinking about McMahon. They had been trying to pry him, I think, for the last couple years. The Rockies should have traded McMahon last year. It was one of his better offensive seasons, but the Rockies are going to Rocky. And they run like a mom and pop organization. They were like, we like him. We like his family. We want to hang out with him more. That's swell. So they waited an extra year here. They could have gotten more last year, but let's not worry about the Rocks right now. They're a billion years away from contending. For the Yankees, this is $4.5 million left this season. He's under contract the next couple years for $16 million. Nothing for their books. They get the control, but they essentially picked someone up that's going to cost them some money to solidify a position that's been an albatross. They should have done this in terms of addressing the position last offseason. We were like, are they going to work on third base? Or are they going to rely on DJ coming back? You disagree? What was the plan for third base heading into the season for the Yanks? Because at this point, the last couple months, they're mixing and matching, especially when Jazz moved back over to second. Jazz should always be at second, not third. Third was a stopgap. It's like, if you want him for a game or two, that's fine. But I felt like it was a true Band-Aid opportunity from a team that shouldn't be doing that. And then it became a perfect storm when Anthony Volpe went through his mess of a defensive struggle, which really has been going on the entire season. He is rushing throws. He's playing way too fast. And the other day in the Toronto series, he goes on one knee to field a ground ball. Like it seems like there's some confidence loss. There's people starting to shout out he might need a quick reset down in the minor leagues. Whatever you think and whatever the plan is, because they don't really have a backup plan for Volpe at short right now, they needed to get more firmness on the left side of their infield, more consistency, because it had been messy.
I think there's a school of thought too. If your shortstop doesn't have to cover all of the left side, and it's not saying he's Kelly Leak over there running and jumping to field balls to the third baseman, maybe they can shift him into a better position. Maybe they can put him in better spots where they don't feel like they have to cover the lack of range for the third baseman that they had before. But this isn't about Volpe. This is about the upgrade that they had at third base and why they didn't basically take care of this in the offseason. I would agree with the way that Brian Cashman and the Yankees took care of this. Look, you don't 100% know that Jazz isn't going to be good at third. Are you hoping? Absolutely, you're hoping. You also have some cash in DJ LeMahieu. To me, if DJ LeMahieu comes back, then we're only talking the beginning of the season, and regains some of the form as a 280 hitter, he can cover second base admirably. Now, all of a sudden, you have a lineup that's going to take care of some of the deficiencies, and you don't have to spend extra money. You don't want to just dump DJ LeMahieu right at the beginning of the season. Are we talking about things that inevitably happened? Yes. But beginning of the season, I did like the route that they were going because they had the personnel in place. It didn't work out. you don't always make all the right choices.
Do you think they should have gone after Gino Suarez and said, screw it, let's get a rental because he's a better bat? No, you think this was the guy?
That's like putting a Band-Aid on a leaking dam. Like, yes, 2 months, maybe 3 months, bang, like, hey, he's putting us together for the postseason. This is nothing against Gino Suarez. I like, for the Yankees, this move much better because of where Ryan McMahon is defensively. And yes, Yankee fans, he will make an error when he plays for the Yankees. Sorry, that is just what's going to happen. But he can hit. He will hit. You watch this guy in BP, you watch this guy in games. Honestly, when he first came up in 2018, when we played him in the playoffs, I was more afraid of his bat, and he was kind of a sporadic player at that point, than even Charlie Blackmon, even Nolan Arenado, because we had ability to pitch to those guys based on how our bullpen and our rotation was built. Ryan McMahon scared me more because of his ability to cover a lot of pitches down in the zone.
What do you think of the short porch for Ryan McMahon? Like it has been so helpful for Cody Bellinger and Jazz Chisholm. No? Nothing there?
I'm telling you, this dude can hit the ball out of Yellowstone. You look at some of his peripherals, how hard he hits the ball, how hard he can hit the ball. It's elite. And he's not like an imposing figure. He's tall, long, lean type of hitter. And I hate when guys say, oh, this is super helping left-handed hitters. He's not that kind of guy. To me, if you get a right-handed hitter that can hit the ball to the opposite field, that's who it really helps. Cody Bellinger's top spin line drives to right field are not his best swings. Yes, it's going out of the ballpark sometimes, but I don't see it helping lefties as much as everybody says, because in overall, like the full scope of your season, if you're looking to get cheap home runs to right as a left-handed hitter, your batting average and all your production is going to go. You still got to hit dingers. It's just like a lefty taking the monster in Boston, taking advantage of that. You're taking good swings that put the ball off the wall that could be caught at the wall at other places. To me, it's not that big of an advantage for lefties, and McMahon will hit the ball. I mean, get ready, bleacher creatures, because that's his territory.
Okay, so Kratz really likes this deal for the Yanks. What's next? I think starting pitching, maybe one guy, and then relief pitching for sure for this team. But in my mind, some of the GMs, the veteran ones, are getting some of their very specific needs, their must-haves done early so that they can work on the icing on the cake, for lack of a better term, right? Yeah, David Stern saying, hey, I absolutely need another left-handed reliever. Boom, checklist, done. Now I can work on gravy, another reliever. Yankees going, there's no doubt we're getting a third baseman. Cool, got the one we were looking for. Now we can work on helping us in the pitching category. Am I missing anything? Do they need to do anything else position player-wise, or you feel like they're set there?
I feel like they're set there. People are going to say, well, now, they're struggling. They strike out too much. Their team identification, the way that they look at themselves as a hitter, I think is set. I don't know that they need – the only position player change is if they can land some type of monster for a Jason Dominguez, for a Trent Grisham. Who doesn't need Gold Glove outfielder that can fill in, has had a admirable year. He's done well. It's kind of fallen off for Trent Grisham recently. Jason Dominguez is still trying to feel his way into the big leagues. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if you're the Yankees and you have a chance to get a pitcher of, a Mitch Keller type of starter that's controlled. Clearly, the Yankees want that control. They went and got McMahon. Do they go and get him? Do they – and the reason I said Mitch Keller is because the Yankees look at other organizations that maybe don't get the most out of their pitchers, and they take that value and they say, we're going to unlock this. We're going to use that. Could they get a Ryan Helsley? I honestly thought the Yankees could have been a Nolan Arenado, Ryan Helsley type of location. Also, obviously Nolan Arenado's out, but I loved his defense at third for this team. Nobody cares if you're closing in the postseason or if you're throwing the 7th or 8th inning in the postseason. And I think that is where this team, if there's an opportunity, can push to that upper echelon and take away that closer, that 8th inning guy from different teams. Maybe even a Bednar to come in. I see a Dennis Santana being in that realm too, just to add more depth to that bullpen, quality depth too.
Last piece of the puzzle here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the Rockies. Like I mentioned, they should have traded McMahon last year. This was an obvious dude to move. It's a seller's market right now. The return is 2 pitching prospects for the Rockies. We will be all over prospect returns. Yeah, and money dump, of course, for Colorado. Yes, good call, Kratz. But this team's going to probably trade away another reliever or two. They don't have a ton of other assets to sell. This was the big one for them. And you got to get these right. I mean, of the 2 that they're bringing in here, you hope if you're a Rockies fan that one of these guys turns into something special for you. Griffin Herring perhaps turns into something special for the Rockies. But it's a bigger problem. They need to reshape the organization. They're probably going to go outside the org to try and find some front office help coming up in the offseason. But this was a big move because they don't have many assets like this. It's not even a short-term asset because he's got multiple years of control. But hopefully they did their homework and did things right. We did bring up yesterday how sometimes the Yankees overpump their prospects and it turns into nice returns from them. I give Brian Cashman a ton of credit. He's done this for a long time now. If you look at many of the Yankees trades over the past 5 to 7 years, sometimes the players they bring in don't work out. But almost every time, whoever they trade away, especially when it's a pitcher, doesn't do much. So I give the Yanks credit for that.
Yeah, no doubt. But now we're in the realm of everybody has kind of the same analytics, the same, like they're breaking down the stats. Oh, wait, didn't I start that by saying the Rockies don't have that? So I'm a little fearful for the Rockies. I'm a little fearful for the Rockies fandom that these 2 guys, you don't know if they're going to work out. You don't know exactly what you're going to get from them. But my thing is, I hope for Rockies fans that they can say, these are the type of pitchers we want to go after. We're going to put these guardrails up. And if these guys can check all of these boxes, that's what we're going to go after. Because if you go and get, which the Yankees do, the Yankees produce guys with spin rate, top of the zone, and breaking balls down the middle with more depth, whether it's a slider, that gyro slider that goes down. Their pitching lab wants you to do those things right here. Well, what happens in Colorado? The ball doesn't have as much life. It's like 1.7 inches less of horizontal break than the next closest ballpark. So as a Rockies fan, you need to make sure or hope that your team is saying, this is the type of pitcher we're getting. We're going to get all this type of pitcher, and this is how we're going to be able to pitch, and not just say, like the Rockies have been saying, well, we'll take that pitcher, this pitcher, and hopefully one of these 6 pitchers will work out, and they're all really good guys. Oh, they didn't work out. It's okay. Thanks for coming to the stadium.
Yeah, and then you got to relook at your system. You got to look at what you're doing as an organization and why you're so far behind, and invest a little bit in that. You're saving a lot of money on Ryan McMahon now. Hire some more people to help with development. I mean, why is every player leaving Colorado being like, and now I'm in the 21st century? So we can spend all day on that. We've done a lot on that. There's a good video of us talking to Dan O'Dowd maybe 2-3 weeks ago about this topic. FT and the FT network is all over this story. So first off, you've got Pinstripe Territory. They're going to do breaking news show for you on the Ryan McMahon acquisition. So for Yankee fans out there, if you don't know Derek, get to know Derek and the show, part of the FT network. Also, we have Snakes Territory. Jesse Friedman, part of that group, joining us next. We'll ask him about who else the Diamondbacks are going to sell, and we'll ask him about the defense for Geno Suarez and if that's why the Yankees avoided him. That's coming up. Hey, this will be our one break to hit just a few games from yesterday. So a few observations on my end, Kratz. First of all, the Cardinals with a lot of pop yesterday take down the Padres. Padres and Cardinals are pretty close. I think they're 2 or 3 games away from each other. And it's crazy. We're talking about the Cardinals as a seller, and we're talking about the Padres as a buyer. Helsley nailed down the save. Good auditions yesterday, Kratz. You had Luis Severino shining. Charlie Morton had a nice outing for the Orioles in a win. And then the Blue Jays clobbered the Tigers. We talked about the Tigers side of it, but for the Jays, you had back-to-back homers for Clement and Loperfido off Reese Olson. Eric Lauer, 8 innings, 1-run ball against the Tigers. That's impressive. So, yeah, it was a good day of ball. I watched a little bit, but I'm also keeping a close eye on anyone that's about to get dealt. Oh, Kratz is going to come back in a little bit. So anyway, yeah, some good auditions really in the past week. Sandy Alcantara had one of his best starts of the year. First time that he went 7 innings. We talked about that the other day too. So maybe that helps in trade conversations with the Marlins and whoever else is interested in starting pitching. That's the market I'm super curious about. There are probably 3 or 4 names, maybe 4 or 5 that are going to be able to pitch in a playoff game for a team that's going for it. So we'll see how crazy the bidding gets, because most of those names are also controllable names, meaning you've got seasons after this one for teams that'll lead to potentially seeing a big return for those teams. We'll potentially see that. All right, Jesse Friedman joining me next on FT. Snakes Territory host Jesse Friedman is here. Great shirt and great episode breaking last night. The Josh Naylor news, they did a little breakdown on the return for the Diamondbacks. Jesse, good to see you. We're going to get to that. I want to start with Gino Suarez. I mean, this is by far the best available bat at the trade deadline. The Yankees just took their name off the list. So what do you think about Gino Suarez and what he could bring to the table for some of the other teams looking for third base help? Potentially Chicago, potentially Detroit, potentially the Mariners still. What do you think about where he could go? And what have you seen from him, offense and defense, this year that stands out?
I mean, the offense is pretty easy to talk about, right? I mean, the man just hits home runs in bunches. It's been unbelievable to watch here recently. He's up to 36 home runs now for the season, and he's on pace for something like 57, I believe, which would tie a Diamondbacks franchise record if he actually stuck around and did that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all know, Scott, that teams love power this time of year. If you're a contender and trying to put yourself in position to go on a deep playoff run, I think it's well documented at this point that home runs are a really big part of the equation. And if you want home runs, there's really no one better on the market than Gino Suarez, certainly not. On the defensive side, I do wonder if maybe that played a role in the Yankees' calculus and in pivoting to Ryan McMahon. Gino Suarez is by no means a terrible third baseman at this stage in his career, but I think it's safe to say that he's slipped a little bit defensively. Just looking at outs above average over on Baseball Savant, he was at positive 12 a couple years ago with the Mariners. He was at +3 last year with the Diamondbacks, and this year he's at -6 up to this point in the season. So, I wouldn't necessarily call him a liability out there, but the Yankees are definitely getting a better defender in Ryan McMahon at third base.
If we're playing the prediction game, do you have any thoughts on where you think he could end up? Sometimes I also do this and it's helpful. Where have teams made deals in the past, because these guys are friends with some of their colleagues or some of their competitors around the game, and that helps lead to trades. Some of them just see eye to eye better. The Diamondbacks and Mariners have done some dealing, so that makes sense. The one way I'll go against the conversations or the rumors about Gino Suarez also ending up in Seattle is that the Mariners didn't love him. They traded him away. So they are looking for an impact bat in that lineup. They definitely helped themselves out with Naylor, but I do feel like they called him out a little bit. Jerry DiPoto was very vocal after that season where the Mariners were a strikeout mess, and then they were the next year as well. So talking about after 23, he's like, we need to get better. We cannot have this much swing and miss in our offense and in that ballpark. I felt like he was taking a direct shot at Gino Suarez, not for the person he is. He's a great dude. He's very lovable in the clubhouse, but for the swing and miss that he has in his game and the streakiness. So why would the Mariners suddenly say, okay, now we're going to pay top dollar at the trade market to bring this back?
I'm with you. I think that's a pretty logical line of reasoning there. I too would be surprised if the Mariners were actually the team that made this move. I know there were a lot of reports yesterday that, oh, the Mariners are still in on Gino, even though they just acquired Josh Naylor. But it almost feels like those reports always happen, when a team trades for the teammate of one of the players that they're rumored to be interested in. It feels like there's always rumors like, oh, that, they're still interested in that other player too. But it feels like we don't normally see that type of thing happen. And yeah, I mean, when the Diamondbacks acquired Eugenio Suarez a couple of years ago, he was not a premium asset. I mean, I don't know if it would be totally fair to call it a salary dump, but I don't think it would be all that off base either. I mean, the Diamondbacks only gave the Mariners Sebi Zavala, who was a backup catcher, and then Carlos Vargas, who is a right-handed reliever, continues to be a factor for the Mariners. He's in their major league bullpen right now, but by no means was a top prospect at the time. His command was way off at that point in his career, more of a lottery ticket sort of player, if anything. So yeah, I would be a little surprised if it wound up being the Mariners. As far as some other teams in the mix, it's really hard to say. I mean, I know the Cincinnati Reds have had reported interest, and we know that the Reds love Gino Suarez. I think there's probably no secrets there. He has a long history in that ballpark. We know the fan base loves him, and he's pretty far removed from his time in Cincinnati at this point. So I could maybe see that happening. But I mean, there's a lot of other teams in the mix here. The Diamondbacks have made some trades with the Brewers in the past. Maybe that becomes a thing. The Tigers are here as well. The Cubs. It's really hard to say, but it looks like the market for Gino is going to be quite a bit more robust than the market for Josh Naylor.
Even with the Yankees out of it, even with one team, by the way, twinning today. But
there we go. Love it.
Even with the Yankees out of it, anytime we talk about free agency and the big players are out on a free agent, the value goes down. Have the Diamondbacks in past history overvalued a player and then kind of missed out because they didn't keep the market open for everybody?
That's a good question. I mean, this is almost uncharted territory for Diamondbacks general manager Mike Hazen. I mean, he's been around this organization for a long time. This would be his ninth season as the general manager of this team, but the Diamondbacks haven't sold a whole lot under Mike Hazen. They've made a few trades here and there. They traded Zach Greinke to the Astros back in 2019. They traded Starling Marte in 2020 when he was playing really well at the time. But, Greinke had a really big contract. The Diamondbacks had to eat a good portion of that in order to facilitate the trade. Starling Marte, it was 2020, so you were only getting him for a month at that point. I believe he had a club option after that as well. So, the D-backs under Hazen have not done particularly well in sell trades. You look back at that Greinke deal, and really, they didn't wind up getting much value in there at all. Josh Rojas was definitely the most productive player, but then they of course traded him to the Mariners as part of the Paul Sewald trade a couple years ago. So the track record here isn't great. I'm not sure we have an exact comparison between what the Gino Suarez market looks like right now and what a market has looked like for any other Diamondbacks rentals here in recent seasons. But it'll be interesting to see if Hazen can kind of change course a little bit here and do pretty well for himself in some of these deals.
Jesse, one of the things that Ken Rosenthal, who was just on the show, said was he's hearing that it won't be Gallen and Kelly. It would be one or the other. Do you feel like that's a misstep for the Diamondbacks? I mean, citing the fact that, yes, they still do have to get through the rest of their games with innings, but do you feel like that's a misstep for a team that, in my opinion, still can compete next year and the next year after that with filling some holes, but getting something for both of those guys, to me, seems like the route they should be going?
I agree with you, Kratz. Yeah, I think that if you're going to sell a little, you might as well sell a lot when it comes to your rental players. I don't really understand the thinking of trying to hold on to some of these guys. I mean, would the D-backs be a lot less watchable the rest of the season without Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly? Yes, for sure. Pitching depth has been a problem for them this year, and I think you're probably looking at Anthony DeSclafani stepping in to a rotation spot. They would probably bring Bryce Jarvis up from AAA as well. His track record in the majors as a starter certainly has not been great. So it might be a little ugly, but as you said, this is a team that still has the ability to contend, I think, in 2026 and beyond. And so it feels like you'd want to just get every possible asset out of what's really been a mess of a season for them if you can. The only caveat that I'll give here is that you could give both of these guys qualifying offers. So there's a world where you capitalize on the trade value with one of them and you move one guy, and then in the offseason, you give the other guy a qualifying offer. Likely they reject it. Although I guess with Merrill Kelly, maybe there's a world where he would accept it. But if the player rejects it and they sign somewhere else for $50 million or more, certainly would expect Zach Gallen to hit that number, at least most likely. Then you're getting a draft pick after the first round. So I don't think it's like an egregious decision necessarily if they don't deal both of these guys. Maybe the return just isn't quite what they want it to be, and they'd rather just have a draft pick instead. But yeah, I have a feeling, given the state of this market, that they could do pretty well for both of these guys.
Jesse, last one for you. Anyone else we're missing in terms of pieces that could be dealt big or small by the Diamondbacks? I listened to the full episode last night. It was great. I heard you guys lightly sprinkle in a Lourdes Gurriel conversation, but I haven't seen anything from insiders. So I think D-backs fans can take a big breath, but I'm not sure. Anyone else? Or do you think that there's a chance he could be moved?
I think there's a chance Lourdes could be moved. A local reporter here, John Gambadoro, who definitely has some sourcing, he did say that some teams have asked about him, but he's not a premium asset. He's not Gino Suarez. He really has not had a very good season. He's been basically a replacement level player, and his contract situation is interesting. He could opt out after this season, in which case it's just a 2-month rental. Or he could opt in for next year as well. And then whatever team acquired him would be paying him, I think it's around $13-14 million in 2026. And he hasn't really played up to that level this year. So the Diamondbacks might like to move Lourdes Gurriel Jr. just to get off of the money for next year. I'm not sure if they're going to find a taker on that. As far as other players go, there are some more expiring contracts here. Randall Grichuk has a mutual option for next year, which we don't really ever see those come to fruition on both sides. So I think Grichuk is a player that teams could look at. And then in the bullpen, theoretically, they could get Shelby Miller and Jalen Beeks back from injury here pretty soon. And both of those guys also have their contracts up at the end of the year. I don't think you're getting a ton necessarily for either of them. But Shelby Miller has actually had a really good season for the D-backs in the bullpen. So, relievers certainly in high demand this time of year. It wouldn't shock me if a team made a run at him as well.
Jesse, great stuff, dude. Really appreciate it. On the way out here, everyone give love to Snakes Territory. It's awesome. These guys are working their butts off. The info's great. And this is the time of year to listen to them, even if you're not a fan of the Diamondbacks, because you're going to listen to all of the players that are getting dealt away here, including Josh Naylor, who just got dealt to the Mariners. Snakes Territory shop is also wide open for you. There's the QR code. And for many in this company, it's their favorite logo. Just throwing it out there. It's really good. Jesse, you're the man. Thank you. Catch you again after another deal, okay?
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. FT fan, be right back. Derek Levandowski with an emergency appearance for us, talking Yanks getting McMahon. BetMGM Locks. Got one yesterday. Kratz, I was in a little slump.
It's okay. I believe in you. I believe in you, Scotty. You did it.
Under 8.5, A's and Astros. Thank you, Luis Severino, for shining against Houston. And that was a 5-2 contest. Yeah, and when he's outside of the home ballpark. The thing is, we haven't talked much about Luis Severino. We can actually do our picks in the next seg since it's just going to be you and me. But I think Sevy should get dealt. I think a team might ask for a little money to be eaten up, but I think he can start a playoff game for a team. I'm trying to come up with the total names that I think will be dealt and are top 3 starters, right? Like a number 3, Luis Severino. We've talked about Mitch Keller, maybe Gallen and Kelly. Who else am I missing? I don't think Joe Ryan's getting dealt by the Twins. I think they might entertain some other guys, but I don't think he's getting dealt.
I mean, Joe Ryan would be up there. To me, I think he could slide in as number 2 in the playoffs because of his swing and miss. But to me, I think that number, the guy that's on the fringe then is a Sandy Alcantara. I think Dylan Cease, if he's available. I don't know if he's available or not. He's not pitching like a 2 right now, but he has pitched that well in the playoffs. And you got to look at the kind of stuff guys have. Sometimes guys' stuff plays up in the playoffs.
And Edward Cabrera would be the other name that comes to mind. Again, not sure he's getting dealt. That one is hard to buy unless the Marlins know the medicals and just really don't feel confident in him because he has had a long list of injuries in the past and now it's all coming together for him. But yeah, so we came up with about 8 names, maybe 3 or 4 of those get dealt. And out of that group, there's your starters in a playoff game. There will be other starters dealt. But for example, Charlie Morton's going to get traded. Do I want him starting a playoff game right now? I do not.
No, but if somebody gets hurt, it's a great option to have because he has experience. To me, if you're buying on Luis Severino, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, they are drastic. His home and road splits are drastic. And he has come out and said – he's said his excuse, and some people say, wow, excuses are like butts. Everyone's got one, and they all stink. But it's a legitimate excuse, and the numbers show it. So if he gives you the road numbers that he's giving you right now, his contract is cheap.
The great Derek Levandowski joining us right now. You got to be all over Pinstripe Territory and his channel dedicated to the Yankees covering this Ryan McMahon news, but we get him for a few minutes on FT. Derek, good to see you. Are you happy? Am I getting a smile out of this deal? What do you think?
First of all, shout out to Jesse Friedman of Snakes Territory, your previous guest. Fabulous chairs, stylish chairs. But this move, I don't think it catapults the Yankees to the top of the standings. But I think it does move the needle a little bit in the right direction, right? He's better than both Oswald Peraza and Yorbit Vivas offensively, right? I know fans aren't going to be excited about the 217 average, but he's got 16 home runs. He's a proven major league hitter. And defensively, he was very good. The Yankees played the Rockies in Colorado, and they played him at Yankee Stadium. And both times, he looked good defensively to me. Anyway, I don't get a chance to watch him every day, but I'm excited to. I know fans are not super pumped about the offense, but defensively, a big play from a slick defender can kind of be like a Red Bull for a couple of innings. Every time Bellinger makes a big play, seems like the Yankees pick up a little bit of momentum. So maybe you're adding a little bit of that factor.
Okay. Are you upset about his home road splits as a left-handed hitter?
I actually haven't dug too deep into his splits because the trade just happened, and I had to hop on the show real quick. But I feel like Colorado feels like a place where you can, if you get the ball in the air, hit the ball out of the ballpark, and Yankee Stadium is the same way. So I'm not sure how much he's going to be effective. Both places are offensive spots, right, for a left-handed hitter. But I haven't had a chance to dive into his numbers yet.
Derek,
Okay. Go ahead, Scotty.
Kratz, I just wanted to see the classic question I was bringing up here. Jim Bowden, who's our resident GM on this show, really pointed to how the Yankees were not that hot on Gino Suarez. They were super focused on improving the defense, even if that means getting a far less effective bat and powerful bat. Do you agree with that decision?
I agree. I mean, the problems that the Yankees have faced this year have not been necessarily offensive, although they've had stretches where the offense hasn't been great. The problems have been the same thing that plagued them in the World Series, which is fundamental baseball, defense, base running. In Ryan McMahon, they're getting an above average base runner. He's in the 73rd percentile in base running run value, according to Baseball Savant, and in fielding run value, he's in the 80th percentile. So this is a guy who metrically fixes a couple of areas where they've shown that they're deficient. Now, Suarez, yeah, he's a big bat. He might win you a playoff game with a big home run, and obviously he would be further protection for Aaron Judge. But he doesn't move the needle defensively. He's not a good defender. So I think that the Yankees are trying to address an area of weakness for once, rather than just, let's go out and get the guy who has the most home runs. And I think that's a smart move.
Does this help Anthony Volpe play better defense at short? Because my argument is when you have a little bit of lackluster defense at third, your shortstop has to cover, whether it's subconscious or it's actually consciously, you're shading more towards third base. Is there a hope that it improves his defense?
I mean, maybe. Oswald Peraza wasn't necessarily known as being a bad defender. He's a good defender. He's made some tough plays, this year that in big spots where there were errors or he's thrown the ball away or whatever. But his problem is not range. I think he's a superior defender to Anthony Volpe, in fact. But anything that, Ryan McMahon can bring to the table in terms of range so that Volpe can maybe slide to his left a little bit, or, where he doesn't have to throw it as far, maybe that helps, because the throws have been the majority of the issues for Volpe.
All right. Where's the rest of the wish list? You're not sitting on, even though it is Christmas in July today, July 25th. You're not sitting on my lap for a wish list, okay? What is the rest of the Yankees wish list?
I've seen people talking about Oneil Cruz lately, but I don't think that's the move. I think you got to focus on the pen. Any relievers that you can get out there, and it's not necessarily the big name guys. I was really into Felix Bautista, but he's apparently had some injury problems. So maybe they'll just pick up somebody like a Mason Miller and just empty the farm. I don't know, but I think they need a flamethrower in the bullpen. I think they need somebody who can shut down some of these rallies that they've been giving up. If you get more strikeouts, you don't have to rely on defense as much. Jonathan Loaizaga has not been good since coming back. Weaver's been a little bit up and down. Devin Williams, his ERA is still over 4. So how much can you really trust him this year? And he was better for a little bit, but then he had a rough patch last week. I would focus on the bullpen. I know that they're interested in adding a starting pitcher. Also, we lost Clark Schmidt. We obviously haven't had Garrett Cole all year. We are getting Luis Gil back, and Cashman is known to view that as basically a trade deadline type of acquisition, adding him in. But I think they're going to focus on pitching.
Okay. Derek, good stuff. Thank you for hopping on. And again, a big reminder to everyone to check out Derek's channel, especially right now, for much more on the Ryan McMahon acquisition. He'll be on post game after Yanks too, and a lot more conversation about this. Derek, thanks for the time, dude. There's the pretty promo and the beautiful, beautiful graphics that are on the show every day. Good stuff, Derek. Appreciate you, man.
FT fam, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you. What's up, all my beautiful people? Listen, I got a two-legger for y'all today. Pretty simple. Pavetta not going to lose against the Cardinals on back-to-back nights with the Padres. We're going to take them in the money line. And we also, Will Warren's pitching for the Yankees against the Phillies. I don't know if y'all saw the Phillies play the Red Sox, but the Red Sox sure got swept. So I'm going Phillies in the money line. We're getting almost plus 298, I think. And we can put 100 on it. We're going to get that cheese. Let's go.
Parlay Pap, baby. Updated money bags for you, too. Cam and Todd Father in the green. You, me, and Pap in the red. But I'm getting close. I'm going to try and get myself back on track today. Kratz, I'll let you go first, though. You ready to go?
Yep. I bought down a couple unders. I'm going under 10 in the Diamondbacks-Pirates game. You lose Josh Naylor, I'm automatically just going to take an under because that's a huge piece of that lineup. And another one that I bought up a little bit more of the runs for the under is the Rockies-Orioles. I thought about taking the Rockies. Kyle Freeland going against Dean Kramer there, but it's an under 11. So under 10 in the Diamondbacks game and under 11 in the Rockies-Orioles game.
Boom. And I'm going to stick to one game, keep it simple, trying to get back to my core a little bit too. No parlays. Money line, 125 down to win a hundo for the Seattle Mariners to be victorious tonight. Brian Wu matching up against Jose Soriano. Good pitching matchup. Soriano's been pretty solid this year. He's not as good at home. I'll take those splits. Really love Wu and his stuff, the way it matches up against the Angels lineup. Angels sputtering a little bit at the trade deadline. I think they're going to make it tough for their GM to buy and for their owner really to buy over these next few days. You've also got a bullpen ERA advantage for Seattle. And here's the biggest reason why I'm picking them, Kratz. They just picked up Josh Naylor. I love the juice when a guy enters the team that first game. They're going to be friggin' fired up. So let's see what happens. Hey, the king of the big swing is making the best day of the week even sweeter. You know what happens on Fridays. It's Big Fly Fridays. Win a share of $100,000 in bonus bets. If your home run pick hits the longest bomb, you can share that with whoever did the same thing. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Go to BetMGM.com or the BetMGM app for more info.
TJ Friedel, do it.
Let's slap. We got a few extra minutes for it so we can look ahead at the weekend schedule, Kratz. So take a glance when you get a chance and tell me what you're going to be watching. For me, I'm looking at anything that involves potential players that can be dealt. Also, some reminders for everyone. Next week, we're on like we usually are, 1 to 3 Eastern, except for Thursday. Thursday is 1 to 6 p.m. Eastern, so we can take you through the trade deadline. It is deadline day on a Thursday, and there are not many games as far as I know too, which makes it even better. You can just focus on the trades. AJ Pierzynski will be back with us next week. We have invites out to basically any insider or national reporter, regardless of publication. So we'll get as many of them as we can from Monday through Friday to break down what happens leading up to it. And then the Friday show is always fun after it to recap all of the deals. All right, Kratz, you got something you're circling this weekend for us?
Mets, Giants. What are the Mets? What are the Mets? They are a team that has built their pitching, and their offense needs to go out there. They need to go out there, and they need to kind of carry this team through the time when their pitching is like, we're not sure what we're doing. They went and got Gregory Soto, and they're in San Francisco. A lot of under there. They got to face Logan Webb. Is not who you're looking to face when you're trying to start a series out on the weekend. It's going to be a tough series out there. Probably a lot of low-scoring games, though.
For me, here's a few. The Royals want to stay involved and be buyers. This according to Ken Rosenthal earlier on our show. You need to take it to the Cleveland Guardians. It's a good matchup. It starts with Waka against Gavin Williams. Williams has been pretty solid lately. You need to win that series. Another one in the same realm. if the Texas Rangers want to try and give you a little taste of what they did in 2023, they were not in a great spot in the regular season in 2023. They just made it. They were a wild card team. That could happen again. It's a really good pitching staff. Can the offense come around? And can you beat down Atlanta in a series this weekend, a beat up Atlanta team? So Kratz, that one for me stands out. I think San Diego and St. Louis as well. I want to see Nick Pivetta tonight against Miles Michaelis. And also the Padres got to get going a little bit. I like this team since the offseason, but this is a big day for Nick Pivetta. They spent some money on him to shove it to a Cardinals team that's probably in sell mode. But I think if the Cardinals won tonight, they'd be like a game and a half or two away from the Padres. So some of this starts to get very interesting.
It does. And you look at even, the Diamondbacks obviously started selling. They're 3.5 or 2.5 behind the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I get it. I get what you're saying looking at those series, but there's definitely there's two stopper series. And you mentioned one of them. Pivetta needs to go out and be the stopper because I think Michael King's the better pitcher when he's healthy, but he's not there right now. So Pivetta needs to be the stopper for the Padres. He needs to get this team back on the winning track no matter what the offense does, which has to start picking it up. And to me, Tarik Skubal. Anytime Tarik Skubal's pitching, he has to go out and win. And no more in this entire season, maybe even the last 2 seasons, has there been a bigger time for him to help this team out of this slide that they've been on.
I'm not even going to look at the Fox schedule, but I'm going to guess with confidence that they're covering the Phillies, Yankees, and the Dodgers, Red Sox, big boy markets. So those are 2 matchups to keep an eye on. You'll probably get them nationally is my guess. See if the Yankees can bounce back. They're 4.5 away from Toronto. And for the Dodgers and the Red Sox, I don't know if the Dodgers are going to have Mookie Betts this weekend. I know he's out for some personal reasons, at least for a game or 2. I'm not sure what his deal is. And with Boston, you got to get yourself on a little roll. Prove to the GM that he should push some chips in at the deadline. Lastly, if you're in the Philly area or down the shore in Ocean City, New Jersey on Sunday, 11:30 Eastern time, the Philly show is doing a live show with really great guests. So make sure you get yourself locked to the Philly show Twitter and Instagram. We'll retweet some things from our Foul Territory account. 11:30 Eastern time. Todd Zalecki, Jim Salisbury, Ruben Amaro Jr. Grab some pizza. Live show in front of everyone. Kratz hat's on the way out. Show it quick. We got like 15
If you don't know
seconds.
about Manco Pizza, this is a team we haven't even talked about. The Nats. The Nats. Nobody said a word about them in the last 2 days. Maybe they could do something cool. Manco for life.
Pizza.